With a sword in one hand and a shield in the other, Fox Hero looks like he's about to go on a fantasy adventure inspired by the Legend of Zelda. But hang on a second, because with floating platforms and enemies consisting of spiky-shelled turtles and fireball-spitting piranha plants, you might be tempted to say that Rise of Fox Hero is inspired more by Super Mario Bros. Could this be the game that finally brings Mario and Link together in a retro-fueled mashup that we've all been waiting for? Well, don't get too excited, because I just played through Rise of Fox Hero, and it's not good. Here's my review. I know what you're about to ask. Who is this Fox Hero? Unfortunately, I don't know. He appears to be a cartoon fox wearing a suit of armor and wielding a sword and shield combo. There's no setup or story explaining his origins, and even after playing through all 32 stages, I'm still not sure what he was rising up against. Hell, I'm not even sure if his name is Fox Hero or if he's just a hero who happens to be a fox. I mean, it's not called Rise of a Fox Hero, so I guess that's his name. I really don't know. What I do know is that Rise of Fox Hero is a colorful platformer that reminds me a lot of Super Mario 3D Land. You run and jump around a bunch of simple linear stages that are full of disappearing platforms, rotating spike traps, bouncing pads, and all the typical 3D platforming obstacles. Hell, it even has those platforms that change position every time you jump. You know, just like in Super Mario 3D Land. Just about the only thing that's missing is the gimmicky 3D effect. Well, in the fun multiplayer, a cast full of recognizable characters, well-constructed level designs, power-ups, and oh yeah, a story. But outside of that, exactly the same. Now that's not to say that Rise of Fox Hero is devoid of any original ideas, because it does bring swordplay and puzzles to the table. There are times when you'll get a hint of that Legend of Zelda influence, such as when you'll need to solve a brain teaser in order to unlock one of the 4 gold coins hidden in each of the 32 stages. While not a huge part of the game, there are enough different types of puzzles to keep the player guessing right up to the end. So when you have a hero who's a sword-wielding fox, you might expect some cool moves, fancy abilities, and I don't know, maybe even a combo system. Sadly, Rise of Fox Hero doesn't have any of that. We're able to run, jump, and slash our sword, and that's it. You can't roll out of the way, charge up your attack, chain together combos, rush the enemies, or really anything that would be fun or interesting. I mean, you can't even use your shield, it's just for decoration. This speaks to the game's biggest problem, and that's that it doesn't bother to do any world building. It's one thing to not give us a story or even a proper introduction to the foxy hero, but this game never even makes the effort to get you invested in the world or the characters. There are 4 chapters to play through, yet there are no themes to the levels. Each chapter is just a grab bag of different locations, bouncing between the tropical heat and the icy cold so quickly that I'm surprised that Fox Hero wasn't constantly getting whiplash. If you're not going to add a story or create a shared theme to some of these levels, why even bother splitting the game up into chapters to begin with? Of course, I suspect that I already know the answer to that question, and it's to facilitate needlessly repetitive boss fights. These one-on-one battles feel completely disconnected from the rest of the game and add very little to the adventure. In fact, I would argue that they only help to highlight the shallow gameplay. If ever there was a time to introduce a sidestep or a double jump or a roll maneuver, this would be that time. But the game, it just never does that, and most of the boss battles devolve into little more than button-mashing affairs. Now, I suppose I could bring up that there are apples to collect in every level, and if you want to find all of the hidden coins that I talked about earlier, you're going to need to go out of your way. A lot of these collectibles will require overcoming a tricky platforming section, a challenge that will ramp up in a real hurry as you near the end of the game. The problem is that there are no incentives to get these apples or coins. It'd be one thing if you could use them to unlock new powers or costumes or really anything, but there's nothing like that in this game. It's just a whole lot of busy work. And here's the thing, what's disappointing about Rise of Fox Hero is that it's not a bad game, at least not on paper. It controls well, the level designs are well crafted, the different locations are colorful, and Fox Hero has the potential to be a really cool character. Had the developers given the game more personality, or just added some depth to the gameplay, I would be having a much more positive reaction. This feels like the first pass at making a 3D platformer. That moment right before the developer adds all the cool items and abilities and whimsical story. As it is, Rise of Fox Hero is yet another generic platformer that I simply cannot recommend. Rise of Fox Hero has all the ingredients to be an adorable 3D platformer that is good for gamers of all ages. By mixing elements from The Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Bros., this budget title had a lot of potential to create something unique and creative. Unfortunately, the developers squandered that potential by creating a painfully generic action game that lacks personality, deep gameplay, compelling boss battles, and worst of all, a story. Look, I don't want to imply that very little thought went into making this 3D platformer. But I mean, the best name they could come up with was Fox Hero. Yeah, that decision speaks volumes. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What is the dumbest character name? Look, I know, there are a lot of really bad ones out there, but my vote goes to Trevor McFur. I know, it's low-hanging fruit, but that name is so bad. Or maybe it's so bad that it's actually awesome. I don't know anymore. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with my long overdue Hitman review, plus a look at Wanted, Dead, and a whole lot more. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.